What happens when the boundaries between heaven and earth are broken, when celestial beings defy their nature, and the sons of God walk among mortals? This question transports us to an era forgotten by time, a period before the universal flood, where creation was still young, but already corrupted by human wickedness. In those ancient days, as men began to multiply on the face of the earth, and daughters were born to them with extraordinary beauty, an event occurred that would forever change the course of humanity. In the days of Jared, ancestor of Noah, something extraordinary happened in the heavens. The Watchers, powerful angels originally sent as guardians of humanity, gazed with desire upon earthly daughters. Their leader Semjahatsa gathered the others in a plain near Mount Hermon, where 200 angels made a solemn oath. Though fearful of eternal consequences, they decided to descend to earth, where their feet caused tremors, and their presence astonished mortals. Soon they took human wives and taught them celestial secrets, begetting sons who were not ordinary men. These beings, known as Nephilim, possessed colossal stature and strength. They were giants who consumed everything around them, first hunting and feeding on the fruits of the earth. But soon their hunger became insatiable. They began hunting men and animals, creating deformed creatures through impure mixing of species. The Watchers expanded their corrupting influence. Azazel taught men to forge weapons and jewels, while other angels revealed astronomy, astrology, magic, and the use of herbs for witchcraft. The earth quickly became contaminated, and God observed with concern how his creation deviated from its original purpose. "My spirit will not strive with man forever," he declared, establishing a limit of 120 years for divine patience. In this context of chaos emerged Enoch, a forgotten prophet by the world, but known in heaven. He walked among cities dominated by Nephilim, proclaiming a warning message. "You, sons of heaven, have left the high heavens and defiled the earth. The Most High will judge you." Few listened, most mocked, but heaven was already preparing for imminent judgment. Fertile plains transformed into devastated fields, replaced by stone cities built by the colossal arms of giants. The Nephilim became lords of tribes, gods among mortals, whose voices roared like thunder and made mountains tremble beneath their feet. Blood flowed in rivers as corruption spread faster than the wind, and nature itself began to protest. The sun seemed weaker, birds migrated without direction, and the soil emitted a bitter smell. Waters turned red, livestock fell ill, and trees dried up prematurely. Deformed animals appeared in forests, while nature itself cried out in protest. God observed that all flesh had corrupted its way upon the earth, and the throne of the Most High shone with justice, while faithful angels watched in silence. A new character emerged in this story: Noah, a simple man, but with a pure heart, who walked with God. While the Nephilim waged war among themselves, and cities collapsed under the weight of perversion, Noah worked the earth with diligent hands, but kept his heart focused on heaven. Amidst the chaos, he cultivated silence, justice, and faith, becoming the last breath of fidelity in a corrupt generation. One night, while Noah slept under an ancient fig tree, a light descended like fire that does not burn. The glory of the Lord surrounded him, and he heard the divine voice. "The end of all flesh has come before me, for the earth is filled with violence. Make yourself an ark of gopher wood." Without argument, Noah began working while in the heavens. Preparations were made for final judgment. 4 archangels, Michael, Raphael, Gabriel, and Uriel received specific missions. God's patience had run out, and the earth cried out for justice. The souls of the innocent screamed from the dust as the hour of judgment approached. Enoch was taken up to heaven again, where he saw visions no man dared repeat. Upon returning, he delivered the final prophecy to the watchers. There would be no forgiveness for them or their Nephilim children. Azazel, the most perverse of the fallen angels, was the first to be judged. He had taught men to make war, create idols, and manipulate creation. Raphael found him in the mountains of Dudael, bound him with fiery chains, and cast him into a dark abyss, sealed between darkness until the great day of judgment. Gabriel sowed distrust among the Nephilim, inciting wars between them while Michael confronted the watchers who still hid. While heaven waged its battle, Noah continued building the ark. Day after day, the structure took shape. 300 cubits long, 50 wide, designed like a floating fortress built with faith and sweat. People mocked, "Where is your God now? Why do you plan to sail this huge box in the desert?" But Noah didn't respond, just continued obeying. Finally, the 7th day arrived. Noah entered the ark with his wife, his 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, and their respective wives. The door was closed by God's hand, while black clouds formed walls in the sky. Lightning tore the firmament with fury, while nature roared in agony. Rivers began to overflow, and winds swept across mountains as creation writhed with deep groans. Inside the ark, Noah prayed silently, while the wood creaked with the first thunderclaps. Outside, people ran seeking refuge in temples and called upon their stone gods, but no response came. Then a sound was heard coming from the depths of the earth. The fountains of the great deep broke open while windows of heaven opened. Water violently erupted from the earth's interior, breaking cities with liquid columns, while heavy rains fell from the sky like blades of judgment. The Nephilim, proud at first, tried to resist by climbing mountains and tall towers, trusting in their strength and stature. But the water showed no respect for height and rose ceaselessly. Gilgamesh, one of the greatest among the giants, roared against the sky. "Are you in the heights taking vengeance, punishing us for having loved?" But thunder was the only response. Og, the colossus of the eastern mountains, tried swimming with powerful arms, but even he was swallowed by a whirlpool. The screams were terrifying as humans cried out and Nephilim roared. The chained watchers listened from the depths of darkness to the sounds of destruction they caused. In their prisons, Azazel screamed, while his once proud eyes were now blinded by darkness. The silence of the abyss was only interrupted by the moans of fallen angels, feeling the weight of their rebellion. The rain continued for 40 days and 40 nights, while mountains were covered. No flesh survived except those in the ark. In celestial books, the names of the Nephilim were crossed out with fire, while stars shone again with intensity. The scales had been balanced, and the earth was washed with tears of judgment. The ark floated above the abyss, while waters covered everything. It was as if the earth had been forgotten. But God remembered. Days continued, and the wind blew while waters slowly receded. Finally, the ark rested on the mountains of Ararat. Noah released a raven and then a dove, while waiting time came to an end. From above, Noah looked through the ark's window and saw a transformed world. Nothing remained of the Nephilim empires. No tower, no altar, no statue. The memory of giants would be buried in history's mud. But in spiritual realms, something still stirred. Not all echoes of giants had completely silenced. Noah opened the hatch and saw a clear horizon, as if creation had been reborn after painful labor. The first thing he did upon touching land was build an altar with simple stones and grateful hearts. He burned pure animal offerings there, and the aroma rose to heaven like reconciliation incense. God then sealed a new covenant with an eternal promise. I will place my bow in the cloud, and it will be a sign of the covenant between me and the earth. Though the earth had been purified, the echoes of the past still whispered. Among Ham's descendants, ancient stories began circulating about giant men and creatures of tremendous strength that somehow survived the Great Destruction or returned through tainted heritage. Peoples like the Anakim, Rephaim, Emim, and Zamzumim began occupying territories, showing larger bodies and swords heavy as tree trunks. God set apart a special people that would come from Abraham, descendant of Shem, destined to march through the Promised Land and once again face the giants of the past. Noah's sons spread out. Ham's descendants went south, Egypt, Canaan, Nimrod, Japheth's to northern lands, and Shem maintained among his descendants the promise line that would walk through centuries to the name Messiah. Among the inhabitants of Canaan circulated stories about men of tremendous stature and walls impossible to breach. When Moses sent 12 spies to examine Canaan, 10 returned with hearts full of fear. The land is good, but the men who live there are of great stature. We saw there the sons of Anak, descendants of the giants, and we were like grasshoppers in our own eyes. However, Joshua and Caleb rose against the fear. Do not fear the people of that land, for we will devour them like bread. The Lord is with us. Do not fear them. Under Joshua's command, Israel crossed the Jordan and faced the giants. Cities like Hebron, Debir, and Anab, fortresses of the Anakim, were taken. But the most feared was yet to come. In the region of Bashan reigned Og, the last of the Rephaim, whose iron bed measured 9 cubits in length. His name made kings tremble, but not Joshua, who defeated the giant with divine help. Between the Philistines arose Goliath, Gat's champion, a man nearly 3 meters tall with shining armor and arrogance in his eyes. For 40 days he challenged Israel before the valley of Elah. Choose a man from among you who will come against me. If he can fight with me and strike me down, we will be your servants. But if I prevail against him, you will be our servants. Israel was afraid. Not even Saul dared to face him. Then, from among the flocks, emerged a young shepherd named David, with a staff and 5 smooth stones in his bag. Goliath spat on the ground, mocking, "Am I a dog that you come to me with sticks?" But David did not retreat. "You come to me with sword, spear, and shield, but I come to you in the name of the Lord of hosts, the God of the armies of Israel, whom you have defied." The stone flew, hit dryly, and Goliath fell like a rotten tree trunk due to pride. David became king, and under his reign, the last generation of giants fell. Isbi-Benob, Saph, Lami, and an anonymous giant with 6 fingers on each hand and foot were defeated by common warriors who carried something the giants never knew, the presence of the living God. Stone by stone, sword by sword, the profane offspring of the Nephilim was eliminated. The cities of the giants fell, and their names became warnings. Their souls remained wandering, already defeated, waiting for final judgment. In the hearts of the faithful resonated a certainty. It's not strength that conquers giants, but faith.